What is going on, everybody? Today we are going to be comparing two of the biggest shoes from ASICS, and that is the ASICS Novablast 5, which actually just released this past December, versus the ASICS Superblast 2, which I believe released around last year in the summer. So without too much talking, let's get right into it. So as always, we're going to start off with the outsoles of these two shoes, the ASICS Novablast 5 and the Superblast 2. As you can kind of see, both of the outsole patterns look to be pretty reminiscent of each other. Now, I do know that both of them have some sort of ASICS grip type rubber on the outsole, but when it comes to performance, the ASICS Superblast 2 is definitely, in my opinion, a little bit more grippy. Now, I live in California, where I typically run on the road in dry weather conditions, but when the few times when it was raining or, there was street cleaning, it was a little bit wet outside, I felt myself sticking a little bit better to the ground in the Superblast 2. The Novablast 5, I've had kind of like mixed feelings about. Sometimes it feels really tacky and really sticky to the ground, and other times I do feel a little bit less confident making sharp turns, especially when it's a little bit wet outside. Now, I can only imagine if it's snowy or icy in your area, running in the Novablast 5 might be a recipe for injury or a recipe for disaster. Now, not to say that the Superblast 2 is going to perform excellent in all weather conditions. I'm not exactly sure how it'll hold up in icy or snowy conditions, but I assume that it will be a slightly better option than the Novablast 5. So if traction is the sole focus or a very high priority to you, then I would definitely recommend the Superblast 2 for that reason. Now, when it comes to durability of both of the outsoles, I have a little bit differing miles on each shoe. I have about 70 miles on the Superblast 2 now, and I have about 45 to 50 miles in the Novablast 5 right now. And with that being said, I can definitely see that the outsole is wearing a lot faster on the Novablast 5 than it is on the Superblast 2. Also, with their respective price points, the Superblast 2 definitely should last longer, and so far it has been holding up to that sentiment. So if you're also looking for durability, the Superblast 2 is definitely a little bit more durable when it comes to outsoles, comparing these two hand in hand. Now, moving on to the main event, the cushion of both of these shoes. Now, the Novablast 5 uses a full-length FF Blast Max cushion, and the Superblast 2 uses a full-length FF Turbo Plus midsole. And I just had to double check just to make sure. But I believe that both of these are a little bit over 40 millimeters of stacked height in the heel, and both of them have an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. And as for experience running in both of these, I would definitely say that the Novablast 5 feels a touch softer than the Superblast 2. It also has a little bit more ground feel, in my opinion. The Superblast 2 just feels a little bit bouncier and a little bit peppier, a little bit faster. And I would also say that the Superblast 2 feels a lot lighter on the foot. Now, that might be also in combination with the upper of the Superblast 2, but I believe that the midsole compound in general is just lighter. The FF Turbo Plus in the Superblast 2 is lighter than the Novablast 5. So if lightness or weight of the shoe matters a lot to you, then the Superblast 2 is definitely winning. And if you want a peppier, more exciting ride, I would definitely recommend the Superblast 2 if you can afford it, or if you're willing to spend a little bit extra money. Now, when it comes to impact protection of both of these shoes, I think that both of them are phenomenal. The Novablast 5's FF Blast Max is still a very comfortable midsole, but it just doesn't have that versatility that the Superblast 2 is going to offer you. So in the Novablast 5, I found myself a little more reluctant to pick up the speed of my runs, and I did feel that, especially at the tail end of long runs, it felt a little bit harder to push through, whereas in the Superblast 2, I think that the midsole and the lightness of the shoe really made it a little bit easier to push the pace while I was on those later stages of long runs, as well as just in general, it made me want to run a little bit faster. Now, with that being said, both of these shoes can be used for different use cases. Now, the Novablast 5 is meant to be a everyday daily trainer, so it makes sense that you're not going to be pushing the pace all the time in the shoe, or maybe you're not going to run all your long runs in the Novablast 5. It is nice to have that option that you can run your long runs and you can run a little bit faster than the Novablast 5, but it's not going to be the best option for that. Whereas the Superblast 2, I think it's kind of meant for long runs. It's meant to go a little bit faster. Now, when it comes to maybe running faster than a 5K or a mile PR, then I don't know if this is going to be the best shoe, since it has a lot of cushion in it. So I would say, when you're trying to PR in half marathons or marathons, I think training wise, when you're running, 13 plus miles in a training run and you're trying to pick up certain paces during that run, I think that Superblast 2, if you don't want a plated shoe, is going to be that perfect option, as it's pretty lightweight, it's really responsive, and it's also going to take care of your body with lots of impact protection. So with that being said, both of these cushion setups are very comfortable, but they do kind of cater to different audiences. I do feel that the Superblast 2 is more of a faster shoe that still offers a lot of impact absorption, and it's super lightweight. So it kind of does the best of everything. Maybe it's not the best for slower runs, as I typically found myself running a little bit faster than I'd like, but if that's the only knock on the shoe, then this is, like I said, a unicorn. So this is a fantastic midsole, and I can also see why this shoe is so popular. Now with the Novablast 5, it's kind of hard because it's a little bit overshadowed by the technology and what they put in the Superblast 2, but the Novablast 5 is very comfortable as well. I would just say that if you're looking to run a little bit slower paces or recovery paces, you're going to be really comfortable in the Novablast 5. I think you can push it up until, you know, half marathon to marathon pace, but you are going to feel it in your legs and you're going to feel it in the effort that you put into the run. So just keep that in mind. Now, that is not a bad thing too. You're going to be training your muscles a little bit more. You're going to be training your mentality. You know, you're locking in a little bit more and pushing yourself harder in this shoe, which I think is really nice, because if you actually have both of these shoes, then you can use this in your training runs, and then maybe come race day or maybe on a harder workout, you can bring out the Superblast 2 and the workout is going to feel completely easier than it would be in the Novablast 5. So this is a fantastic daily training, everyday running shoe, which is what it's meant to do, and it's going to really kind of push your fitness to the next level if you train only in this shoe. Now, if you run all your runs in the Superblast 2, the difference when you put on a super shoe or something more aggressive may not feel as easy as if you trained in a regular daily trainer. So with all that being said, both of the midsoles are fantastic. It kind of just matters what you're looking for in a shoe, as well as maybe the budget that you have in mind for each pair. Now, when it comes to upper, the materials on the Novablast 5 is a mesh or jacquard upper, and I would say that it's not the softest mesh, but it's also not super stiff. I'm not the biggest fan of this material. It does have a gusseted tongue and a pretty decently padded heel collar. So overall, the fit I think was true to size. I do have a wider than average foot, and my foot fit perfectly in the shoe. There was a little bit of wiggle room in the toe box, which is always nice, as my feet do expand on long runs, and typically most people's do expand. So you do want to have a little bit of extra space, and it's nice that ASICS added that little extra space in the forefoot. If you want a more snug fit, I think you could get away with going down half a size, especially if you do have a narrow or normal foot. But in my opinion, the shoe fit perfectly fine, and the heel lockdown was really good. Midfoot lockdown and forefoot lockdown were very good in the Novablast 5. So if you are looking at the Novablast 5, I would say go to true to size if you do want a little bit of space in the forefoot, or you have a wider foot like I do, or maybe go down half a size if you want a more snug fit, or you have a narrow to regular sized foot. Also, if you can't try them on in store. Now with the Superblast 2, I would say it fits pretty much similar to the Novablast 5. If anything, I would say that the Superblast 2 fits just a touch, maybe just a touch narrower, but once I broke in the shoe and I put more miles into the upper, I did feel like it broke in. So I did get my regular size 12 in the Superblast 2, but it did take a little bit more time to break in the fit. Now the fit is pretty locked in and dialed in, but I do feel like the right heel is not completely secured, at least in my case, but it's good enough where I don't really notice it too much. I only notice it, you know, sometimes, and I would say it's pretty negligible too, so it doesn't make too big of a difference on my runs. Now the upper materials on the Superblast 2, I kind of prefer over the Novablast 5. It just feels a little bit more premium, and I think ASICS says that it is a mesh, but it really feels and looks like a knitted material, which I'm a huge fan of. Now, speaking of knitted materials, both of these shoes aren't super breathable, so if ventilation is something that you really value, then I don't think that you're going to be too happy in both of these shoes. I think if I had to give the slight edge for ventilation, I would give the slight edge to the Superblast 2. Overall, both uppers aren't super breathable. So if I had to give a winner for the upper, I would say the Superblast 2. I'm just a bigger fan of the materials. But when it does come to fit, I would have to give that slight edge to the Novablast 5. Overall, if I did have to pick a winner between these two shoes, it's a little bit tough because, you know, the Novablast 5 is priced at $140 and the Superblast 2 is way more expensive at $200, but I'm gonna have to give it to the ASICS Superblast 2. I just think that it's so fun to run in, especially once you break it in. I feel like the midsole gets bouncier and bouncier, and it's super lightweight, fits the foot well. I love the materials. I think that the traction is a little bit better than Novablast 5. I think that the only con of this shoe is maybe that minor heel slippage for me on the right foot, as well as the price point and maybe availability of the Superblast 2. But overall, I think that both of these shoes are fantastic. Now, if you wanted to build a little rotation, I actually could see you can buy both of these shoes and you can use the Novablast 5 for most of your daily slower runs, and then when you really want to pick up the pace or you want to do race day, then I think you can wear the Superblast 2. So this is a nice little 2-shoe rotation that you could have if you're training for a marathon or a half marathon. So always keep that in mind, that that is an option. So like that commercial where it's like, do you want hard tacos or soft tacos? And then the little girl's like, why not both? So if you can't afford it, maybe why not both? But I think that both of these shoes you will be happy with regardless of which one you pick. I think that you definitely are paying a premium price tag for a premium feeling running shoe with the Superblast 2, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to get your hands on it, but with the Novablast 5, it's kind of a tried and true daily trainer now. It's kind of solidified its place as one of the top daily trainers in the running market, so honestly, can't go really wrong with both of them. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below if you have either one of these shoes, or if you're deciding between any of these shoes and you have any questions. I'd be happy to discuss in the comment section down below. But other than that, I don't have anything else too much to say, so please stay tuned for more videos, and thank you guys so much for the support. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.